Okay, we are recording now. Back to meeting. Okay, so here, whoops, wait, let me find the other side of the drawer. Here we go. So this is the other side of my little personal projects dividers. And what I did is I, the cross section, whoops, I'm not annotating. Draw. The cross section is kind of a roll up here, and then it rolls back at a 45-degree angle. So if you kind of cut away, this looks something like that. And the reason is I wanted to be able to, when you grab a fork, if you just push it this way, it slides up the side and allows you to get your hands under it. And then when you come up here, and then it pushes it, it scoops it out into your hand, kind of like a big wave. But I printed these on their back. So this is the bottom, and that's totally flat. And so if I looked at the kind of printed version of it, it looks something like this. So this angle, you can get like more than a 45-degree angle as it prints in layers going up, because it can cantilever and overhang. And then this part is just, I want to say solid, but it's really not. It's full of support material when you have a void, where you can't do that in manufacturing, because that void would create a big sink and you're wasting plastic and stuff. But in 3D printing, that's okay. And it sometimes adds more structure too. So I just left that. I had these holes kind of going diagonally, and this one goes down, and these go kind of in diagonally here. And I wanted to be careful. 3D printing is not that strong. So let me clear this. So like these screw heads are this kind, where they're a flat. And then the print has a shelf that those land on. So that's stronger than if I had it tapered and used a tapered screw. What's going to happen is I screw that into here, and as I go down, it's going to want to wedge outward and then crack the 3D print, because it's kind of weak in here. So there's, like I said, there's just all these little subtle details, and you can kind of see it's not a really good print. There's all kinds of little blemishes, but it was totally fine for this. And I had a bunch of extra ABS filament, which it's used to be kind of the de facto, but it's actually very brittle, and it make off gases when you print. So it's not good to be in a space where you're 3D printing this stuff. So I was just basically trying to get rid of all the ABS I had, and I use something called Tough PLA now. Anyway, so I'm just kind of trying to give you a little bit of a primer on how 3D printers work. So this is a little fruit stand thing that I made. And here again, I was trying to print it with no support. So the cross section here is, whoops, annotate. It's just a curve that goes out kind of like this. And again, it's printing like little tiny layers all the way up, and then they all intersect, but there's nowhere where it's created a overhang that would not print. So basically, if you're printing up, let's say at 45 degrees, and then you try to go out like this, there's no support under here. And so the filament, as it was oozing out, it would just make a big mess. So it has to print support material under here to break that off. So I've been trying to be very careful and clever about how to set all this up so that there's no support needed. And that prints faster, less material, less cost, etc. Wait, hold on, let me get back to. All of a sudden, I notice there's no green border. You guys can still see my screen, right? Does anybody give me a thumbs up? Okay, great. Usually has that little green border, but I think if you're recording, it doesn't. This is a little coaster thing I made that was kind of diatom inspired. For a drink, while the condensation the outside will go down and spiral down these little things and go into these holes, and then it drains from the other way. There's my coffee tamper handle. And apparently you're not supposed to do anything that comes in contact with food. But in this case, the contact part is my tamper. This is just the handle, so it's okay. I also printed up some lampshades in a translucent. And this is kind of interesting because it's just, I'll show you the CAD. It's just 2 walls. And then the support material, I chose this pattern called gyroid, and then made it really big, and it just made this pattern in there just naturally, which is kind of cool. Very simple project. And there's another different lampshade. This one didn't look as good as I thought it would on the outside. The inside's really cool. It's kind of bubbly. I did all this in the form environment, kind of spiraling and twisting and pulling and stuff. Anyway, wait, I was going to show you one more thing. Oh, here, let's see. Here, actually, this kind of shows you. So this is this thing printing, and you can see that it's printing the layers, kind of working its way up. I thought this was going to be one module for that fruit bowl thing that I did, but you can see by the time it got up to the top, it was just really messy. So I think the accuracy as you're moving up and you've just got these little tiny, hits, things wobble a little bit, the filament doesn't quite stop or end, and it just looked like too much of a mess. So I just ended up printing it. The idea was here again, looking at that concept that I can print a 45, and 2 45s can come up and meet together, but I can't print an underhang. So this started here. So this is okay. And so I was trying to come up with a pattern that would 3D print, but look very tree-like organic. Like I said, I abandoned this just because it was so messy. All right, so, I don't know if I have the one box that, let's see, where is that? Yeah, the one project we're going to do here, I don't have a picture of it, but that's okay. We got it in Fusion. All right, so let's jump over and get started. So open up your Fusion, and oops, you're not supposed to see that. Of course, you guys are covering up the close box. Here we go. There we go. All right, so we're gonna do one super simple thing to start off with. Open up a new document. And where can I park you guys so that you're not covering my, let's try this way. Oh, I know what I can do here. Hold on. Sorry, just give me a second. Let's go that way. There we go. I'm just going to exit full screen. And we'll just make the window smaller. So that all my tools can be down below. Or all the Fusion stuff. Sorry, a little maintenance here. Just, okay, that's that. And this is this one. And let me just clear out the clutter before we get started here. Okay. Hopefully this works. All right, you guys can all see my fusion. Okay, thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Jubon. All right, so I'm going to do, because we're going to make this with parameters. And what we're going to start off with is just a little simple tray. I've got a whole slew of these Prismacolor markers, and they're just a big mess in my drawer. And so I'm going to make a little tray for that. And we're going to use the parameters. And so the idea is here, when it's finished, you guys could go measure whatever pencils, pens, whatever you need, and just change the parameters and 3D print up some little trays for your own goods. So let's get started. So first off, I want history on, so make sure that's on with the little timeline down below. And let's do this here. First, just create a box, any old box, and we're going to start on this bottom plane. And I'm just going to drag a random size and random height and just say, okay. And the reason I'm doing this first is because if you go under modify and you go down to change parameters, you'll notice that there are already some parameters in here. So if this is just happening all the time, we've never accessed this. But if I go into this unsaved and box primitive, here's all the sizes that this box is. So I could just go ahead and change these. In fact, let's just do this for fun. So I'm going to round these up to okay, so this will be 50, let's say, millimeters. And this will be 100. And I'm doing them different so we can really see. And this will be 25. And if I, okay, you can see there's my box with those parameters. So these parameters are always there. But you can also, if you notice up at the top, it says user parameters. So let's add some of our own parameters. So let's start off with the length. And you could type out length, or you could just do whatever, shortcut. I'm just going to do L. And my units, I'm going to switch to inches because I think my pens are too long for my calipers. And my first expression, and this, again, this is where it can be changed. So if you don't have anything to measure, I'll just give you some measurements to begin with. But these pens are a little over 6 inches, 6 1/8 inches long. And I probably want a little slop on either side so that they don't wedge in. So maybe I'll say 6 1/2 is going to be the length. So the expression is just the measurement, 6.5. And then the name is the kind of keyword that you're going to use to change those parameters. And here, I will just type out length, because it doesn't, you'll see either way it works. And then you can enter a comment. I don't really need to. So now you'll notice that this is the parameters in the model. These are the parameters the user, me, has added in here. So, and before I go any further, we're going to add just the height and width, but has everybody got this far, or does anybody have any problems finding these, this parameter box? Let's see. If you're doing good, give me a thumbs up.
Hey, Brian, I just got on campus. If you can show how the how you got the parameter box open again. I followed the rest of it, but just
okay, yeah.
Just like
let me
where that
yeah.
option box is.
So under, so first of all, it shows up different without history. So make sure your history's on. And then go over to modify. So notice I'm in the solids tab, modify. And the way down at the bottom, there's compute all. One up from there is change parameters. And if I open that, you'll get this dialog. And actually, while you're getting that set up, I'm gonna plug in my microphone, as I already feel like I'm talking too loud.
Can you do that one more time? I'm still not getting that parameter option.
Sure. And can you guys hear him okay? Can you hear me, Corey? Okay.
Yeah, good.
Close. Okay, so one, make sure your history's on, so you'll see that little dialog box. Make sure you're in the solids tab, as opposed to any of these other ones. And then under modify, down at the bottom, you should see.
Oh, here it is. Yeah.
Change parameters.
Yep. Okay. Got it.
Okay, and then there's two. So you don't even need to make that first object. I was just showing you that it automatically is creating parameters, and you can actually use this in a project to go and adjust things. The problem is that this will get super complex and trying to find something specific. It's almost easier in the timeline to change things, but it's all there. So what we're doing is we're up near the top over here. Let's annotate. No. Annotate. No. Yeah, whoops. Interesting. I don't know if I got to annotate and do this at the same time, so let's not do that. Sorry, my unannotation. Oh, yeah, sorry, accident. All right, let's start again. All right, let's I'm gonna just delete this box because I don't need it right now. So I'm right clicking and I'm just gonna hit delete. All right, so now I'm gonna go back to modify, change parameters, and then we're basically preemptively starting. We're gonna set up some user parameters. So so I've got length already. I'm going to add another one. We'll call this width. And this will also be in inches. And here's a good question. What do I want my width? Like I said, I can change it, but I want to be able to hold a couple of these markers. So I'm just going to stack up some and measure it. So maybe 5 markers sounds like a good start. Sure, 5. Okay, so I gotta measure that. Mm, 3 inches. Okay, so I got 3 inches there. 3. Okay. And then one more user parameter for height. And here, this is one where I'm definitely gonna have to make one and see. I do want to make this hold a lot of markers, but if it gets too deep, it'll be hard to see what's under and things will get buried. So I'm not really sure what, after my first test one, and I changed my mind. In fact, I was thinking maybe of doing them more shallow trays and then have them stack up so that I could have my less used ones parked underneath and have all my premium ones on top. And that can also grab, let's say I'm doing something where I need a bunch of blues or whatever, I could just grab my blue tray and have that by my side. So I think that seems like maybe a good idea. So let's just keep on going. Height. So these are at 3/4 of an inch, maybe. So let's just assume I want to go too deep. Then it probably 1.5 will give me a little clearance. So let's try that. Inches 1.5. Okay. And then I need, at least right now, I need one more parameter, which is the thickness of this. So the wall thickness. And just call this wall. And here I might use, just leave it in millimeters, because I'm going to guess 1.5. Okay, so I got length, width, height, and wall. Okie dokie. Now, here I could start this a bunch of different ways. I could start it with just that box like I showed you and apply those dimensions and then shell it. I can also start with a sketch, and I think I might do that just because it's, let's do both. Let's do both, okay? And you can see, because the first one will be super easy. So let's do we'll do the first one, just creating a box. Okay, so I'll click on the ground. I'm going to click in the middle here just because I like to start. And then here, if you see the ones that are highlighted are the active ones, but so there's a little measurement right here, but I can also put my measurements in here. So my length will be, and if I just start typing out length, you notice as soon as there's not too many, so as soon as I type L, I've got my user parameter length. And then width, W, and there's my user parameter, oops, width. Oh, see that one I've got two. I got width and wall, so I have to be careful. And then height, each. And this is going to be new body. Okay. Sorry, I get my 3D mouse here. Hold on one second. There's like, you don't need to know this, but I've got a 3D mouse, and every time my computer goes to sleep, it's got like a little plug-in USB dongle thing. I have to unplug the dongle and replug it back in to reset it. I don't know why. It's a dumb design. All right, so there's the beginning of my tray. And then this actually, actually, let's try. Now I'm going to just shell this. Shell. And here it's asking me the amount to shell it. And so that's going to be my wall thickness. And so what did I call that? Wall. Okay, so I've got just a super simple tray. I could print this up. I could be done. And of course, my mouse is not working. Let's do this one. There's one more thing I showed you on my my kitchen counter or dividers. I want to put a radius on here so that the pens are easier to kind of roll out. And I probably want that just a little bit wider than the diameter of the pen. Because if you think about it, if it's exact same diameter, it'll just bump up against the wall. But if it's a little bit bigger, it will roll up and I can get my fingers kind of under it as I push it up against the wall and then pull them out. So what did I say this was here? I'm going to get my, and I can make a user parameter for this too. But for now, I'm just going to, so these are 15 millimeter diameter. And so my radius needs to be more than 7.5. And there's 10. That probably is good. So let's keep with 10. All right, so here we go. We're done with our tray, but I think I want to do, where do you get these square corners? Things get a little brittle, so it might be a good idea to add a little radius on the insides here to strengthen those corners. And again, I'm just going to leave these. I could radius the outside too, but it'll add actually a little bit more material in those corners. And so that's probably good enough. All right, so now I'm going to just go through the whole process. Let's say if I wanted to print this, and the 3D printers at school use the same slicing software that that I use here, and it's on the computers there. So first, take a look and see if you can find, do a little spotlight search for cura, C-U-R-A. And this is the, and it might say Ultimaker Cura. It may just say cura. And that should pull up something that looks like this. This is going to be what you use to 3D print something. So this is the kind of, and mine's set up for my printer. And I forget where you set this up. Let's see, file. And this doesn't really matter because we're just going through the exercise right now, but the references. I think when you first launch it, it's going to ask you what kind of printer. Oh, here it is. Okay. So up on the top, it may just automatically direct you to this, but if it says add a printer, you're going to add a non-networked printer. And Creality 3D is the brand, and an Ender Pro. Where is it? Ender. Here, Ender 3 Pro. That's the printer that is at school. And then you'll hit add. Printer extruder. Is everybody, I'm going to pause here again. Was everybody able to find Ultimaker Cura or just Cura? Give me a thumbs up if you found it and able to open it. Cool. Corey, I didn't see any thumbs up there. You find it yet?
Yeah, I'm good on this. I'm
okay.
good.
And you've got your own printer, so this part you don't have to worry too much about. So notice it even says Ender here. It's got the bed size and everything. My bed is bigger than these little printers, so I wanted to pull this in to see if this will even fit. And then you'll have some kind of standard things up here, but let's get our model in before we even start monkeying with this. So go back to Fusion. And Fusion just recently changed the way they export out to the printer. And so what you're going to do is, this is the tray. There's only one body in here. So if you right click on that, I personally think this is kind of a dumb what they've done here, but you want to save it as a mesh. And the reason is because this STL file, which is the 3D printer language, is technically a mesh, but also you could save out to other meshes like OBJ. And so what you're going to want to do is under this save as mesh, you can do this STL or 3MF. As far as I understand, this is kind of a newer format for 3D printers. I use this. I'm not sure if the Ender will accept this. So let's just do our standard STL. And again, I don't understand binary and ASCII, but let's just try the top one. So STL binary. And unit type, my printer works in millimeters. So if I did something in inches and I bring it over, things get messed up. So it's good to, that's why you typically work in millimeters, just so that when I bring it over to the printer, I don't have to change this because I'll forget. But well, let's go ahead and do this. Preview mesh. Okay, so you can preview it and it'll show you, it looks pretty ugly, but it prints okay. Usually I just leave it on high refinement. And in some cases, I used to be able to say output right to printer, but now it won't let me print directly. It's notice the thing is grayed out. So I have to do an intermediate step of saving it to the desks or wherever I want to save it. So let's go okay. We'll call this tray. Let's go just right to my desktop. And we'll save this. All right, now let's go out to the desktop. Actually, I don't need to go to the desktop. I need to go to Cura. And now you'd think you want to import that in here, but you can open those STL files. So I'm going to say open. I'm going to go back to my desktop. There's my tray. Oh, and I did save it as a 3MF. Let's see what happens. Open. Okay. Yeah, so it'll fit. So you'll notice it's got these weird stripes on it because it's technically out of the boundary right now. And so if you click on the object, you'll notice the first thing that comes up is these move buttons. So I want to move it over and in until it's fully in that white boundary layer. And then these other things are, we don't need to do them, but scale, you can change the scale in uniformly or one dimension. Rotate, I use this probably mostly because depending on how the thing is modeled, how I want it to sit in my bed. And if I hold down Command and click these arrows, it will rotate in 90-degree increments. And so you don't have to do this, but I'm going to put it on its side for a minute just to show you that that whole red area is saying is unsupported and that it won't print without support material. Now, if I rotate it again, you'll notice there's no red, so this will print okay with no support material. And then you can also, with this, you can flip it, mirror it. This is support blocker. I haven't even used those. This is basically just what you do is just bring it in, scoot it into so it's not stripy. A lot of times it will be, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah. it might be halfway through the bed like this, and if you just grab it and pull it up and just let it drop, it will drop onto the surface. All right, so the next step is to look at the this standard, or sorry, this is the printer settings. And and usually you can just, I've got this on expert mode here. Let's go back to, of course, this is just outside the window one more time. Sorry guys, you're just right on top of, okay, so mine may look different from yours. If it is, you click on this recommended. This is going to be way easier to start with. And so you'll see these are the top is the resolution. And so the higher the number, the kind of thicker the lines are, and the lower the number, the more lines that it does and the more fine it is. And then infill, usually 20% is fine. So let's just go ahead and look at this. I'll do two different versions. First one is at 0.12, which is the finest that this will allow me to do. And so way down the bottom, there's a little button that says slice. And so let's go ahead and do that. And oops, nope. Sorry, I guessed that it said slice because the box was covering it up here. So I'm going to preview this. So first is prepare, then move over to preview. And now this is sliced, and you can, if I zoom in here, you can kind of see these very faint lines. And this little slider is the number of wall or layers, so 318. And if I move the slider down, you'll see as I get into this lower section where there's some thick areas, you can start to see the material support, internal support that will just be printed inside the object. You'll never see it, it's just holding things together. And so that's at 20%. And like I said, that's usually pretty good. Now here, I'll just show you for a minute. I'll change this up to 60 and we'll reslice it. And now you can see it's way denser inside there. And the only reason you'd ever need to bump it up is if something needed superstructure or weight or whatever. So like I said, 20 is good. Even 15, let's try 15 here. Or that might be 10, sorry. So here's 10, so it's a bigger spacing in between. And so I'm going to go back to 20 for a minute, and then I'm going to go from the 0.12 to 0.28 and reslice it. And this should have a lot less layers. Before it was 300 and something, and now it's 136. And notice, I forgot to look at the time, but the coarser it is, the faster it'll print. So this is going to take 5 hours. 5.5 hours to print. But watch if I, again, change this back here. And you always have to slice anytime you change things. Yeah, so this is 12 hours, 13 hours on the highest resolution. Now, this is just a pencil tray, so we could get by with the lowest res on this. We're not looking for any high res details or anything. So one more time. Okay, so 136 layers. Here. And then you have a couple more options. In this case, we don't need any support, so we're not going to choose that. Adhesion, if you have something really tall, what was I just printing? Oh, my rocks. Do I have some here? See me anymore. Where am I? Oh, here I am. These little rock stacking thing I did, I printed them up on their edge. and they had a little bit of support on the bottom. And then some of them fell over when they were printing because they just didn't have it. They were getting tall, but they didn't have a good support. And so if I choose this adhesion, let's reslice it, it'll make a little brim around the bottom. And that just kind of holds it down to the plate a little bit better if you have something that's kind of tall and skinny. This is fat and wide, so we don't need to worry about that. So I'm going to turn that off, one more slice. And then the 3D printers at school have a little thumb drive thing that you'll transfer your files. So you'll save them onto that and then put that into the printer to print it up. Okay, so let's get out of here for now because I want to show you another. So yeah, let's just jump back to Fusion. All right, so let's look at this for a minute and say, all right, let's say I printed one of these up and I'm like, it just needs to be a little bit wider. I want to get one more pen in there. And so I'm going to go and change my width to, let's go 3 point. Actually, I'm going to do something just more drastic just so you can see. Let's go 6 inches there. Okay, so notice that not only did it change that, but all those features downstream went with it. The big radius and the little radius on the edges. Okay, so that is one kind of tray. And actually, I'm going to undo that because I am going to print this up like that just as a test. So think about also when you're doing this, like what do you need to get organized? There's a guy, I just watched a video where he built a whole like flat file drawers and built a little bucket for every single screw and nut he had with a little label area on it. And he printed like a couple hundred boxes and just had his printer going like almost nonstop for days and days on end. You certainly should look on YouTube for 3D printing ideas and stuff. There's all kinds of cleverness. There's one guy I watched, CNC Kitchen, I think it is. I'll find a list of a couple of good guys to follow, but they just have all kinds of little tips and tricks, and they try things and try different filaments and test things out. All right, so I'm going to turn off this body and I'm going to make a new component. Standard, and we'll call this tray 2. All right, and before I get into this again, just kind of checking in to see if you guys are all, does anybody have any problems, can't find something, something's not working? G1 says thumbs up. I think that means you're doing good, right? Yeah, give me a thumbs up if you're all following, everything's okay. Cool. All right, so the second, actually, let me show you before I get into this. Let me show you what I did on that tea tray if I can find it really quick. Whoops. Here we go. True T7. So I tried to be really clever about this. And what I did is actually started with the actual dimensions of my drawer. And so my parameters, here's my drawer width, drawer length, drawer height, tolerances. And that's the space in between the boxes and stuff. And then boxes is oh yeah, okay. So boxes is how many fit this way. And I pre-calculated out, I could only fit 3 this way. So that's a given. But what happened is by the time I got into this, I kind of chamfered this off and this. And so this ground area didn't really apply anymore because the next box stacks up a little differently. And so let me back up in time. The reason I'm showing you this is because I figured out a better way to do this. So my first step was, I think that's the whole drawer. Yeah, so that's my drawer, actual dimensions. Let's go one by one here. Okay, so there's the grid. And if I look at this, you'll notice that this says FX. So this is actually, I was trying to do these calculations in here. So this is the drawer length all the way from the beginning to the end, divided by the number of boxes that I wanted, which was 5. And then minus the tolerance, that's the space in between each one of them. Something didn't quite work in my calculation, and it after I did my first one, the tolerance, I don't know what I did wrong, but it wasn't quite working out right. So, but let's keep going. So first I made a box. And then this looks like I got a center line down the middle of my box. And then I drew a plane on that center line. And then I chamfered off the front corner. I angled the back corner, rounded off those corners. There's another chamfer in there somewhere. And then here I drew a new sketch and projected that across and cut that whole top surface off. Here's my little triangle for those little side cuts. And so I ended up making 4 of those and then subtracting them. So I got these little notches. And then the last thing I do is shell it after I've got all those details on there. Now, the thing I realized afterwards is I should have just started with the sketch, because I've got all these operations. I've got this chamfer 1, I got this angle change 2, I've got this sketch that I've projected through there, that's 3. And if I just started with the side view sketch, I could have got this whole profile, and then all I need to do is extrude it, round off the corners, and shell it. So that would be way simpler. So I'm going to do something kind of like that method for, oh, there's one more. What's that? Oh, these little rounded corners on the top. And what is my wall thickness? Let's go to our shell. Because in the end, 0.04, I don't know what that is in millimeters, but it's actually, I think that's less, that's close to a millimeter. Point, well, no. 0.04 inches. So I'm just checking. Yeah, it's basically 1 millimeter. So 1 millimeter is about 2 passes with the print head, which, like I said, makes it a little bit stronger than just a single flimsy wall. But I think I have here. Hold on a second. If you think about it, a single wall will print almost like twice as fast, but look how wobbly this is. And you can see actually down the bottom, it's actually cracking open. So that's the single wall version. This is 1 millimeter and it's much stronger. No cracks. Just enough, you know, I could probably go a little bit more if I wanted it to feel stronger, but but that's a good start. So just remember that, at least 1 millimeter wall thickness. And depending on the kind of strength you want, you could go up from there. And what time is it? 10:30. So let's get started on this other box, and we'll take a break in a minute here, just so. Cancel this. Close that. Don't save that. And I'm not sure what the difference here. Actually, this might be different. Let me check the wall thickness here. Edit feature. No, it's about the same. It's 0.035 inches. So again, that's about 1 millimeter. Don't save that. And since I see it right here, I'm just going to show you that original lampshade. So that's the measurement of the light fixture. And I want to see that sketch. Maybe it's this one. There we go. So that's the profile of the lampshade. And then I revolve that around. So it's basically just one big, thick, solid object. But with the, so that was like probably a 5-minute project, just a couple measurements, profile, and a sweep, and done. And then just the rest was all in the settings on the in Cura. Actually, let me just see if we have, again, jumping all over the place here, but infill, where's my, oh, here we go, custom. So the infill pattern, I use this one called, yeah. Let's see it here. It was called gyroid, and it basically makes this kind of cool wiggly pattern that turns every which direction, but is all printable. Anyway, let's get back to our project. So before you do much else, let's save what we're doing. Okay, so this one, let me just use this as a whiteboard and kind of show you my plan before I even get building, just so you can kind of see what the plan is. So I was thinking about this. I want the trays to stack on top of each other. So here's one tray, here's another tray. Problem is if I just do this, trying to line them up and get them to stack is almost impossible. They'll just fall over. So if I want one tray to fit into the next tray, then one tray probably, usually when you're molding this, you have to have draft. And so these are going to kind of, or would angle in. And so that next one can come kind of angled in, and then you can have like a little shelf. And that's all fine and dandy. We could do that, but I don't mind the straight walls. So what I was thinking is that maybe if on the bottom corner, if I print a chamfer, that 45-degree angle it can handle. And so the next one, if I come up and I have an equal chamfer, that will nest into there. but I need a little shelf to hold this up. And so I'm going to do something like that. And then this shelf, I need support to get it there, but I can also do that chamfer going this way because it can do 45 or more. And so I'm going to let my leave the curve on the bottom for the, the pens will be in here. And so basically this, whenever you angle something, it's actually really good because it funnels itself into place and then it will land on the shelf. When you're 3D printing something, the bottom being flat is the best thing. Like if this were molded, it would probably have like a little, cut up with just like a little foot, but that would create all this material support needing to be there. So I think this is my plan. So it's this little weird shape here. And then this will fill in solid, and actually I'm drawing these diagonally. The printer will print them this way. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna use my I'm gonna use my same parameters, but instead of doing length, width, and height to just start with the box, I'm gonna actually start with this sketch of this box and extrude that to the depth that I need. And then maybe I'll just cap off the walls. I'm not actually sure if I want this to go all the way around, or I think I only need it on 2 sides. So the front and back wall can just be a straight up and down. So let's give it a shot. So first thing, I gotta get out of my annotations. I'm gonna start a sketch, create before I do that, make sure you're in your new component with that little radio button clicked, not up in this level. We want to be down in this level. So that way, if you start in there, any new sketches or anything you do will be in this folder, as opposed to getting some stuff up here and some stuff down there. So let's go to create sketch. And now I'm going to work on the front view. So if you're not there, just click on the front icon. And here I'm just going to create a, create a sketch. I'm going to create a square starting from this point and moving upward. And don't worry about the height and width yet, just put it in there and then go to the sketch dimensions, or if you notice, if you hover over this, it says in that little dialogue, it says sketch dimensions D, and D just means just type the D key. And since we use this one all over over and over again, that's a good shortcut to know. And so here's a trick. If I measure, I can measure this way and get a what's my height is, yeah, this is gonna be height. So H. What? Is that right? Oh, it's turning into millimeters. The reason this is actually not good, if I come in here later and I decide to put some radius on this edge and this edge, it says warning. It gave up on this dimension. Constraints or dimensions were removed during this operation because I measured that line, and now these 2 radii effectively made that line a lot shorter. So this, it looks like it's still locked in, but what's better, let's back up here. So instead of choosing the line, choose the top and the bottom. Oh, and notice this square, since I started in the center, these two lines are black, that means they're constrained. I can't move those because they're locked to this the origin point. But these can move because they're horizontal and vertical connected, but they don't have any dimensions to them. Okay, so let's do that again. D. Now it's better to actually go from one line to the other line. And of course it's not working. Let's try again. There we go. Because the space between these two lines is going to stay the same if I put radii or do anything weird to those. And then I'm going to do the same from this side all the way to that side. And this will be the width. And I'm not done with the sketch yet, so let's think about this. So instead of doing the shell command, I'm going to build the wall thickness into this sketch. So we'll use the offset. And here I'll offset the entire box because the chain selection is on. And here, this will be our wall, WA. And notice, like, if I extrude this now, I've capped off the box, but we'll fix that later. The other thing I could do is I could just work on half of this with all these little features and then mirror them over. So I think I will do that. So that means I need a center line for my mirror plane. And so if you grab your single line tool and you go hover until you see that little triangle appear, except for I'm going to go with the lower one. And then I'm just going to draw up and over and reselect that and turn that into a construction line, just so I have my center. So even if I made my box bigger, that center will move with it. So for example, this, let's just go to, so see how that center line's locked to the center. So you have, when you're building for these kind of parameter things, and even just in general, sometimes it takes a minute to kind of think about what should be linked with what's the hierarchy of details and what's gonna change and follow along. And usually you'll build it and then try to change something and something will break, and then you can see where it's breaking and go back and fix it. Let's see, just trying to decide if I want to keep going here for a minute or take a break. Let's take a break right now. I'm gonna get some juice. So it is 10:46. How about 15 minutes? Come back at 11. He's good. He's good. Okay. All right. So if you're got somehow behind and or stuck, stay on for a minute and show me where you're at. And if not, we'll see you guys at 11. Anybody have any? If you, I can't see everybody right now because you're all buried under stuff. So unmute and holler out.
So is it like, are we going to make same boxes and then at the end print it out, or?
Yeah. Yes, similar box. This will be the stacking box. Mm-hmm. And then, but I want you guys to think about, like I said, if you have, special pencils or pens or paintbrushes or any kind of art supplies that need are different dimensions, then you can just enter in your own dimensions.
Okay, so like the general form should be similar.
Initially for this one, yes, and then, but then once you understand the methodology, you could change it. Like
Okay,
your
got it.
own parameter driven stuff. Somebody, like one of the students made a little soap dish instead, you know, so,
Mhm,
or
got it.
bathroom shampoos, or, you know, whatever.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. See you at 11.
Yep.
Okay, so this is Brian here, and we are continuing our box, and I'm I'm making this up as I go along. So I just did this offset, and I'm thinking maybe I should wait before I do this offset and do a couple of the other features. So I got to move you guys back out of my workspace. And you go down here. And that's why the window's kind of small, because I got all the Zoom stuff down below, which you can't see. All right, so I just did this offset here. I can either double click it and delete it, or I think I can just back out. Oh no, I did that center line, so I'll just delete it. Because I'm going to chamfer off the bottom corners and stuff, and that will probably be a lot easier to do after the tray is a little bit more complete. So the first thing, I'm just thinking of my order of operations. I'm just going to draw, and I'm going to work on half of this and then mirror it. So I'm going to draw just a random line from one side to the other, and I've still got the construction line on, so I'll change that. And here I want to think about, if this changes, I don't want this thing to get blown up. So I want to lock this down to this lower layer. And maybe what I'll do is we'll put some dimensions. I'm not sure if I really want 45, because I think I'll get better off with like a 30-degree angle. So first I'll click on this and the bottom edge. And if I flip this on this side, if I change this to 60 degrees, that will be a bit of a steeper angle. And I could change that again, but let's start with there. And then I'm going to measure, probably, like, let's say on the bottom here, I'll measure from the end of this line to this very center, because those things will lock down. And that says 5. No, let's just round that up to 5, round it down to 5. And I think that's all I need, because this center point's locked. I've got a measurement to here, then it's 60 degrees up here. So I don't think this thing can do anything other than just be where it is. And again, if you grab it and just try to move it, if it moves, then it's not constrained. If it's black, it most likely is constrained. So I'll leave that. And then sorry, still thinking. I would like to just trim these 2 lines. So I just have this, because then it will make a nice transition. The problem is that they're both on the center here. I might be able to trim one. So let's just, I think something was selected before I hit trim. Yeah, so if I trim this one, notice that this all of a sudden turned blue. So that's constrained. This is I'll leave it. Yeah, I'm just not sure if it's gonna offset properly, but we'll give it a shot. All right, so that's 60 degrees. And then I want the next tray is got to land somewhere on that line. And yeah, that's the beginning of my shelf here. I'm just going to draw in the shelf and then we'll constrain the dimensions. So it's gonna be on this line somewhere. Let me zoom in. And then it's gonna be an angle. Let me get that construction off. So we're gonna a little bit of an angle. Then I'm gonna want a horizontal out past this dotted line, and then another little bit of a horizontal, and then another angle back. And let's just keep going. And so I'm going to offset these three sides here, and then add this to it. So the wall thickness, I think I could do a measurement here, and I'm just getting sorry. This is so this is going to be my what did I call it? Yeah, I think I called it just wall. W. Yeah, wall. There we go. Hit return. And then this angle should also be that 60 same degree angle as below. And so I'm going to move this out here so I can find the angle 60. And then the length of this is not terribly important. It just needs to go past this dotted line. Oh, actually, this technically should hit this bottom line. So if I move this down, there's a point where those will coincide, because if you see this tray down here is going to land up there, and you can see this guy got messed up, but we can move him. And so I don't know if that automatically locks, but let's put a coincident from this to that. There we go. And sometimes I'm not sure, I think what moves to what. I just moved it backwards and it seemed to work. And then this dimension, let's see, 2 millimeters. I'm just gonna go 4 millimeters, just see what happens. This dimension doesn't need to be much at all, so let's just go 1 millimeter. And then this needs to be at least 45. And so I need to measure it against a straight angle and so it's sometimes when you're measuring like this, I wanted 45. So what's 90 plus 45 is 135. Or I could measure it to a different line. Okay, so I think that's my weird interface. And then now we'll do some offsets down here. I hope you guys are all following this, but so in this case, I'm going to unchain selection and do this line, hold down Command. No, why won't it let me do that line? And we're going to change this to the wall thickness again. And then let me see if I can get that other one. Offset. There you go. Okay, so I'm just looking at it, make sure it's all good. And if you hover over these areas, if they highlight, then you're all like, they're all good, solid features. So this, that, this and that. So let's just do a little bit of cleanup. You don't actually have to trim stuff because you can just make multiple selections of little chunks, but I'm going to trim off that. Let's see if I trim this, if this breaks. It says it's some constraint. I also don't need this piece in here. I could leave it, but let's see what if I trim that off. So see how now this is behaving as one big solid, and you know, technically, let's just keep going and see if I trim that off. And I'm going to zoom in here. Trim those and that. And I'm going to leave this stuff here because we're just not going to use it. But it's helping me constrain all that. And here I could mirror the sketch, or I could do this halfway, extrude it, and then mirror that extrusion. It may be better that way. I don't know, because the sketches are always fussy. So if I were going to do that, I would just draw a solid line down here to separate that chunk. And then if you see, if I highlight over here, now it's kind of following that whole dimension. And just to test to see if this sketch is going to break, let's change this parameter. This is the height. So I'm going to go to modify, change parameters. User height is 1.5. Let's just change it to 1 and see if things break. No, it seems like it worked okay. So that's good. I'm going to undo that. And then the other is the total width. And let's just change that. And I could just change it here too, because I just have a width. So if I just said, like, let's say 3, whoop, oh, that's in millimeters. 3 IN. Oh, interesting. Let me do that. Okay, so change parameters. Width. Oh, it is 3 inches. That's why. Let's go to 2 inches. And so far that looks good too. Okay. Somehow. Up there. Okay, so we're good so far. I think I can finish this sketch. And and then I'm going to extrude this, create an extrusion of this. And I'm going to just start the extrusion and then type in the length. So this is also like the length that I started with. Was that an internal dimension or external? And I think in reality, I want it internal to make sure my pens fit. So I'll keep it this length. And then I think I'm going to cap this end off, but I got to change this line into it's a construction line. I need to change it into a solid. So I'm going to go back into my sketches edit sketch and just change that into a solid. That will help so I can divide this into two pieces. Because now what I can do is I can grab this and extrude the other way. My wall thickness distance is wall. And I want to add this join. I hope this works. And then I got to do something similar on the backside. And so here, if I click on, oops, wanted that wall. I'm gonna do that again. Extrude this and that this way. Oh, because it's minus. So I want minus wall. So that's going to force it out that way. And join. Okay. Oh, okay. There we go. And we're getting close to being done. And then I'll go back and help anybody that's got some problems. So I want to cap this wall. And the easiest thing to do is create a new sketch on that wall. So click on the edge of the wall. And it sets up a sketch palette and it pulls in this whole profile. And so the parts of that profile that we're missing are just these two edges. So if I add these, notice I hovered over this corner, and then it will allow me to kind of map across the proper height. And now let's escape out of this, finish this sketch and extrude this and that out. And now it's positive, so just wall. And now I should kind of have half my tray. I'm going to put a little bit of radius on that bottom edge, but the outside is fine. So I can roll up. And I'll put a little one there too. I'm just making these numbers up. Okay, so that's half the tray. Oh, I see my next problem is. The ends won't fit past these walls, so maybe I could cap these off at the, no, then it will just slide off. Erg. Okay, well, we just got to do one more operation to this. Let me finish this up though. So we're gonna actually, maybe I should do this while we're mirrored. So basically what's going to happen, let's just grab this. We have half the tray. We're getting there. If I make a copy of that, create the copy, and I scoot that up, in cross section, it should work. But you see those end caps are running into each other. So let's look at the cross section. So those are sitting where they're supposed to. And the reason this doesn't hook back out is because then that creates an undercut. So I'm just trying to use the printer with no support. So I got to do something with these end caps. And I could run this all the way around, but then I run the risk of pens getting hooked on the front and back, and I don't want that. So I think what I can do is just before I add this, I'll make it a little bit shorter, and then I'll add a chamfer onto the bottom of this just until it fits. So I wasn't planning for this. My bad calculations. So if I chamfer this bottom edge, I want to do this kind of smart. I got to do the inside first because I'm going to add material. And then I'm going to do the outside. And actually, I should probably even do this before I add that, that radius. So I'm going to cancel that and go back to before my radius. And now pick that inside corner and this inside corner and chamfer this up. We'll just go up until we meet that other angle. Except for here, I'm going to do that same 60 degrees instead of 45. And so I'm going to change this to 2 distances on the chamfer. Come on. And then you can do them independently. And so actually, or I'm going to change it to distance and angle. And so this will be the distance. And then the angle is 60 degrees. And now I think I can, oh, except for I want it the other way. This is, oh, interesting. One's 60 degrees, the other one's 30. So I guess I got to do them one by one. Okay, so one more time. Distance and angle. This distance and angle is going to be 60. And so I'm backing up. And this one is going to be, see how it's going up. So the angle is going to be 30. Whoa. Sorry, that was the distance. Angle. I hope you guys are following along. This. Okay. And then now I can do the outside. I might have been able to do them both at the same time, but so this is distance and angle, and now it's pushing up. So I think yeah, so now it's 30. And I probably should have just done 45 because then it would be easier. I could do them all at the same time, but too late now. 30. Well, you can see if it's wrong, then I just change it. And here I'm ignoring my wall thickness. As long as it's close, it should be okay. Okay, so now the question is, will this fit on top of the other one? So let's try it. And I still got to mirror it, but I just want to fix one side before I do that. Move. So I'm using the move tool, create copy, scoot this up so it's on that shelf. And it looks like it's just fitting in there. I think I'll just chamfer the inner edge of that just to make sure, but it looks like it's going to work. So cancel that. And then, like I said, we'll just throw a little bit of, and sometimes the sketches get in your way. So just turn those off. So that and that. And here I'll just do the equal distance. And that's just giving a little bit more clearance for tolerance. And I don't know if the parameters are still going to work, but let's give it a try. So first, let's do last part, mirror this whole object, mirror plane. In this case, I can just pick the raw edge. And then I know it's going to stick to itself and I'm going to join it. So there's my tray. Woo! So let's save. And now let me just change my parameter, see if it still works. Let's see, length, I'm not so worried about. Height might break things, so let's change that. 3 inches. Looks like that worked. Modify width. Width. Let's go 5. It didn't seem to do anything. Well, that's interesting. Somehow the width broke. So if I went back to my profile sketch, I think I must have done an operation that that broke the definition of the edit sketches. Is it grayed out? Oh, because I'm oh, because I'm in the wrong sketch. That's the problem. Okay, let's try it one more time. Edit sketch. Here we go. Yeah, so this lost its formula. So here was width W. So I'm just going to re-establish that. There it goes. Now it's behaving like I thought it would. So let's finish this and we should get a super wide tray. Oh, yep. So the width broke this whole thing. So I've got to go back in and figure out the width, but let's just undo that. But I am gonna redo this. No, I can't do that. Sketch. I'm gonna go back and do. So it was 3. All right, so like I said, I'll have to fuss around with that. But the tray is done. I'll print up 2, like I said, and test them out and see if they work. And maybe I'll go during lunch, I'll go throw them up on my printer. They won't be done. You saw it was like 5 hours or whatever. So it's not going to be done before we're done with class, but next class I'll have them to bring in. So it is 11:30. I'm going to stop here, let you guys get your lunch break. And then maybe after lunch, let's go back to our one-on-one time slots. And I forget if I changed the schedule on our mural to reflect the last time where we did half-hour chunks, but this time it'll be whatever our leftover. I'll divide it up and adjust it on the mural. But it'll be the same order. I'll just adjust the times. Does that make sense? I hope so. And I know some of you guys probably got stuck somewhere in here because I just kept on motoring through, but when we have our one-on-one, be prepared to show me where, if this thing worked or if it broke, and I'll help you get it fixed wherever it's broken. Okay, so it is 11:30. Let's take an hour lunch and meet back here at 12. Sound good? Silence. Guys still there?
That's good.
Okay, thanks, Daniel. Anybody else? Let me stop recording here. Do.